Have you ever stopped to think about the transformative power that forgiveness can have in your life? It's curious how something seemingly simple can have such a profound impact on our well-being and how we relate to others. Imagine for a moment the burden you carry by holding on to grudges and resentments. Now, imagine how liberating it would be to release that burden and live with a light and peaceful heart. Many people believe that forgiving is difficult, but here's the secret. It's more challenging to live without forgiving. Forgiveness is like a magic key that opens the door to a fuller and happier life. Throughout this video, you will discover that forgiveness is more than just a choice. It's a powerful decision that can completely change the course of your story. Together, we'll explore inspiring stories, life lessons, and biblical teachings that show how forgiveness can bring healing and spiritual renewal. And don't worry, we're not talking about something you have to face alone. With God's help, forgiving becomes a journey of self-discovery and liberation. Prepare to challenge your beliefs and discover how forgiveness can be a powerful tool to transform your life. After all, who wouldn't want to live without the weight of the past and embrace a future full of opportunities? Let's explore the power of forgiveness together and find out how this simple act can be the key to a lighter, happier, and more peaceful life. When we think about our lives and the stories we build, we realize that we all carry some emotional baggage. Sometimes there's small wounds we don't even notice. Other times, they're heavy burdens we'd rather not talk about, even with our closest friends. Imagine how different it would be if we had a way to leave all of that behind, to free ourselves and live a lighter life, as if God were giving us a comforting hug. And at the end of the day, what everyone wants is to feel that peace that comes from knowing you're not alone on the journey, right? Many times, we find ourselves trapped in difficult situations where we feel there's no way out, like an emotional maze. Who hasn't been through that? Feeling lost is more common than we think, and that's where we find the true connection with our inner selves. Forgiveness, something so simple yet so complex, can be the way to ease that burden. But do we truly know how to practice it? People often seek advice in books, lectures, even movies, looking for answers. But the answer, my friend, might be closer than we think. Sometimes, a story can change everything. Like that friend who comes to share an experience, and suddenly, something clicks inside you. It reminds me of a time when someone I knew talked about how forgiveness completely changed his life. It was as if a dark cloud had dissipated, bringing a new dawn. I mean, who wouldn't want to live without resentments, without the negative load we sometimes carry for so long? And that's precisely what we're going to explore. How examples of forgiveness can illuminate our path and perhaps open doors to opportunities we never imagined. Speaking of transformative stories, there are two, in particular, that deserve our attention. The Bible, with its stories full of wisdom, offers us life lessons that continue to resonate today. The parable of the prodigal son is one of those stories that makes us reflect on the choices we make and the grace of forgiveness. Imagine a young man who decides to leave the comfort of home in search of adventures and pleasures. He spends everything he has, finds himself lost, and at the peak of his disillusionment, decides to return home. Here is where the magic happens. His father, instead of reprimanding him, welcomes him with open arms, symbolizing God's unconditional forgiveness. And isn't that what all of us seek at some point in our lives? A hug that tells us that everything is all right and that there will always be a place for us, no matter how far we've gone. Another powerful story is that of Joseph and his brothers. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, Joseph faced unimaginable challenges, yet, incredibly, he maintained his faith and determination. Upon becoming a powerful figure in Egypt, Joseph could have easily taken revenge on his brothers when they came asking for help, but he chose to forgive, demonstrating an impressive inner strength. Who wouldn't want to have that ability to overcome such deep hurts? God was by Joseph's side, and the strength of that forgiveness brought not only reconciliation but also the salvation of his family. This is a valuable lesson on how forgiveness can be a transformative act for both the one who forgives and the one who is forgiven. However, these biblical stories are not so far from our own experiences. Who hasn't felt betrayed by a friend or spouse? That feeling of disappointment, as if a piece of our heart had been ripped out. It's a pain that's hard to overcome. Yet, forgiveness offers us a way out, a way to move forward without carrying the weight of the hurt. Imagine someone who, even after a betrayal, decides to forgive and rebuild trust. It's not easy, but with God's help, it is possible. These examples show us that despite the challenges, forgiveness is a choice that can free and transform our lives. As we reflect on these lessons, we can find inspiration to apply forgiveness in our own daily lives, allowing it to bring peace and renewal to our spirits. And as we'll see, this practice is a powerful tool for achieving inner peace and living more fully. Forgiving someone who has hurt us can seem like an impossible task. It's like trying to forget a wound that still hurts. However, forgiveness is more than just an act of forgetting. It's a conscious choice to free yourself from the weight you carry. Let's imagine a person who was betrayed by a close friend. Anger and sadness are natural feelings, but holding on to them only prolongs the pain. When we choose to forgive, we are allowing God to help us find inner peace. After all, forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, a chance to live without the burden of past hurts. As we reflect on the importance of forgiveness, it's essential to remember that we are not alone in this journey. God is by our side, ready to guide and strengthen us. A practical example of this is setting aside a moment each day to meditate or pray, asking for divine guidance to help us forgive. Some people find comfort in writing a letter to those who have hurt them, expressing their feelings, and then destroying it as a symbol of liberation. Small gestures like these can be the first step towards a lighter and happier life. Moreover, seeking inner peace involves more than just forgiving others. It also involves forgiving oneself. We all make mistakes, and living in self-punishment for them brings us no benefit. Instead, we must learn from our failures and move forward. A great book that talks about this is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which teaches how to live in the present and find peace amidst chaos. And just as God forgives us, we must also learn to forgive ourselves. When we embrace forgiveness, we make room for healing and spiritual renewal, preparing ourselves for the new opportunities and experiences that await us. And as we follow this path, we can reflect on how the practice of forgiveness is deeply rooted in inspiring biblical texts that guide us. In the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 13, we find one of the most powerful passages about forgiveness. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. This message invites us to practice forgiveness the way God forgives us, with love, understanding, and without holding grudges. In a world where hurts and disagreements are so common, this message is a constant reminder that forgiveness is an act of divine love that we can replicate in our daily lives. Reflecting on this verse helps us understand that forgiveness is not just a choice, but a continuous attitude we must cultivate. When we look at how God forgives us, we see an unconditional love that does not cling to past mistakes. This inspires us to treat others with the same grace. Imagine the transformation that could occur if, instead of holding on to resentments, we chose to release forgiveness. we would be able to create more harmonious relationships and stronger communities. Forgiving isn't easy, but it's a path that brings us closer to God and our true purpose. The example of forgiveness we find in Colossians challenges us to examine our own hearts. Are we willing to set aside pride and seek reconciliation? Perhaps there is someone in your life you need to forgive or even ask for forgiveness. Think of the times you have held on to grudges or avoided forgiving someone. How about picking up the phone and sending a friendly message or arranging a coffee to talk? These actions, as simple as they may be, are significant steps in the journey of forgiveness. And as we practice this teaching, we realize how it connects to the transformative power that forgiveness has in anyone's life. Forgiveness has an incredible power of transformation. It not only frees the one who forgives, but also heals deep emotional wounds that we often carry for years. Imagine a life where resentments and grudges do not dictate our path. How many opportunities could we embrace, and how many moments of happiness could we experience if we weren't stuck in the past? Forgiveness is like a spiritual remedy, a balm that God offers us to ease the pains of the soul and allow us to grow as individuals and as a community. Many of us have gone through painful experiences that left scars on our hearts. Perhaps it was a betrayal by a friend, a harsh word from a loved one, or a disappointment at work. These wounds, if not treated, can consume us from within. However, the act of forgiving is a powerful step towards healing. By forgiving, we are not just releasing the other person. We are freeing ourselves. We are telling ourselves that we deserve to live without the weight of bitterness. And when we do this, we make room for God's love to fill our hearts, bringing peace and renewal. Forgiving is a courageous decision that allows us to see the world through a new perspective. It's like cleaning a dirty window and finally seeing the beauty of the world outside. Think about how your life could change if you decided to forgive the person who hurt you. It could open doors to new friendships, strengthen existing relationships, and even improve your mental health. Studies show that people who forgive live with less stress and more satisfaction. Therefore, forgiveness is more than just an act of mercy. It's a life choice that can bring profound personal transformation. And speaking of choices, the next step is to understand that forgiving does not mean returning to what it was, but rather moving forward without carrying the weight of grievances. Forgiving doesn't necessarily mean restoring what was broken or completely forgetting what happened. Sometimes, forgiveness is about freeing oneself from the weight of the past and moving forward without resentment. It's like letting go of an anchor that keeps us tied to a fixed point and prevents us from sailing towards our true potential. People often ask, if I forgive, does that mean everything will go back to how it was before? The answer is, not necessarily. Forgiveness is more about your inner peace than external circumstances. It's a choice you make to free your heart from the bonds of hate and pain. Take, for example, a friendship that ended in disagreement. You can forgive that person and still choose not to maintain the same relationship as before. This does not diminish the value of forgiveness. On the contrary, it strengthens your decision not to carry grievances. Forgiving is an act of courage that requires emotional strength, and this is where God's help comes in. When we trust in the divine plan, we find the strength to forgive even the deepest offenses. Prayer and spiritual reflection can be powerful tools to help us in this process, showing us that forgiveness is a form of self-liberation. However, forgiving is not easy. It is a journey that often feels like a roller coaster of emotions. It takes determination and faith to decide not to let bitterness control your life. Think of moments when you chose peace instead of anger. How did it change your perspective? Perhaps you have already felt the lightness of forgiving someone, and realize that your heart became lighter, as if you had left a huge burden behind. With God's guidance, we can find the path to true inner peace. And as we embrace this journey, we can turn to a final prayer, asking God to continue guiding us in the practice of forgiveness, bringing healing and restoration to our lives. Lord God, in this moment of reflection and search for inner peace, we turn to you with open and humble hearts. We know that forgiveness is a powerful virtue, but we also recognize that many times it is a challenging path to walk. At this moment, I ask you to help the person listening to this video. You know the struggles and challenges they face and are aware of the hurts they carry in their heart. I ask you to illuminate their path and strengthen them with your loving presence, helping them find the strength to forgive those who have hurt them and seek true inner peace. Grant them the wisdom to understand that forgiveness is a gift they can give themselves, an act of love that liberates and heals. May they feel your presence by their side, guiding them every step of the way. And may they find in you the inspiration to leave behind what hinders them from moving forward. May your infinite love fill their heart, bringing comfort and spiritual renewal. Finally, Lord, I ask that you continue to bless this person, showing them the path of hope and reconciliation. May they feel your hand guiding them in times of uncertainty and trust in your divine plan for their life. May the practice of forgiveness become a constant source of healing and restoration, allowing them to live fully in harmony with you and others. In your name, I thank and pray. Amen. We have reached the end of this journey, but the real beginning is in your hands. What will you do with the power of forgiveness you now know? Think about how your life can change when you leave behind the weight of grievances and embrace the freedom that forgiveness offers. Are you ready to take this courageous step and transform your relationships and your own inner peace? Imagine the positive impact this will have not only on you but also on those around you. Now is the time to act. Who is the first person that comes to mind when you think of forgiveness? Perhaps it's time to make that call, send that message, or even start the conversation you've been postponing. Remember, with God's help, there is no challenge too great to be overcome. Forgiveness is a choice you make for yourself, and it is a powerful step toward a happier and more fulfilled life. If this video resonated with you and brought new perspectives, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Together, we can continue exploring themes that challenge us and help us grow. Leave your comment below about how forgiveness can make a difference in your life. Who knows, your story might inspire others to follow the same path. Thank you for being with us on this journey, and remember, the power of forgiveness is in your hands. God bless you, and see you next time.